All right, so we are live. So what I want to do, and I'm about to post to the personal page. No, I don't want to first. All right. Hi. So for those that don't know, one of the things that we do at Invisible Majority is like consulting for micro businesses, creative entrepreneurs, um, you know, the hustlers, particularly those who are just starting out or those who are trying to do something different, new, or take things to another level. So a lot of what we do is very like based in experience, based on who we know, um, and rooted in reality. So not just like these unrealistic things that aren't really attached, and then people feel very detached from it. And these things feel very distant. And kind of doing this approach, it kind of some like branding and stuff can be a lot of smoke and mirrors. And that's why it's important not to have that like comparison story because you never really know what you're looking at. So you can really only focus on yourself and what works for you. Um, and defining what that means and what that looks like. Um, and so, anyway, we've been doing this Create Your Own Lane series, been able to do a couple workshops, one with Micah, one with Red Bull and Mapico. I feel like, and did a youth creating your own lane workshop. So in addition to the consulting, been doing that. And I wish the share screen feature was working on here so I can show you guys the workbook that was created by Oli Butterfly and I to kind of help creative entrepreneurs with a framework. But I'm working on getting that printed. I'm working on getting that like online publishing copy that people can use. So at home and in their spare time, they have the tools necessary to kind of go through these things and figure something out. Either creating a plan, working on an artist statement, working on your communication, whatever the case may be. When it comes to entrepreneurship, particularly micro entrepreneurship, creative entrepreneurs, the biggest thing is always money. People's either attraction to entrepreneurship is trying to get money or, whatever their side hustle is, or if they're deep in, need to end, doing things full time, their concern is how do I make money? Am I making money? Why am I doing this? And all of that. Um, and for me, I feel like making money really is the easy part. Anything and everything can and will make money. I think a lot of times we overthink it and we block it. Especially when we start to brand and define ourselves as a particular thing and then, cut ourselves off from other opportunities, which I always like to say there's absolutely no entrepreneur, particularly creative entrepreneur at any level, that's only doing one thing to bring in income. If you are an entrepreneur, you have to have they say at least 7 streams. I don't know how true that is, but I guess for my own life, that might be the case. 7 streams of income to keep going. One being passive that you don't really have to work for, something that you might be known for that's, you put out there, something that is, small or menial or whatever the case may be, something that's steady, something that's kind of big. Every artist lives check to check. Again, whatever level Whether it's the mainstream, major artists, they're living check to check. And as an independent contractor, self-employed person, micro entrepreneur, generally speaking, you're living check to check. Or you might be having some sort of daily stream of income. The biggest thing, so I noticed, there's people that have jumped into it. Like, I can't work for anybody, I can't do this, I can't have somebody, and then jumped into entrepreneurship and thought it was going to be, people have sold you this dream. I make my own schedule, all of that. And that's not really necessarily true, especially if you don't have the financial backing to play one role and employ yourself, and you are the business and you're doing everything. So you are playing the owner, the intern, the assistant. You don't have the luxury of making your own schedule and just doing things when you want to do it. And if you come in treating it like that, you are not going to generate enough income to sustain yourself and sustain your business. Because the truth is, again, unless you have people who've invested in you a considerable amount and invested in your company a considerable amount, which comes with its issues sometimes, then you are starting out at least playing all of these different roles, and you have to work harder than that 9 to 5 because you are playing multiple roles if you want to match where you are leaving from. So I can understand if you are coming from like a legit, 50, 60, 70K plus a year job. And it's like, I don't know if I want to jump out there and this isn't working for me, but you should at least be able to match. If you are coming from like a minimum wage situation or $10 an hour, even $20 an hour, you should be able to easily match that. What I have found in my own life, that's the issue. And when I look at other people, is it really comes down to organization. It's not about money. When you have a job, they organize the funds for you. And so you get paid every 2 weeks. Maybe you get paid every week. They've budgeted exactly what you're supposed to get. You have a clear understanding of what you're supposed to get. If it's a salary situation, if it's hourly, it's a little different, but it's kind of the same thing. It's a agreed upon rate. They hold it for you for a couple of weeks, and then they give it to you. And you know what that amount is going to be more or less, and you budget accordingly. The difference when you are a micro entrepreneur, especially if you're a maker of some sort and you're able to just sell stuff and you're able to create or generate or figure out money every single day, you might not be as organized with that because you end up having this mentality like, I can pay for that or overspend for that because all I gotta do is make 10 earrings, make sure I sell 10 earrings, and then I'm able to do that. It shifts a little bit. You're able to set goals and do expenses based on those goals, which is one of the things that I really like about working for myself and having different options. But the challenge with that is it's not totally sustainable, because anything can happen. You could get sick. A bill that you weren't expecting comes through, all of these type of things. Now, of course, that's the case if you have a job as well. But the difference is if I am budgeting based on my output or labor of my tomorrow's output or labor, then I'm not planning properly. And I'm not organizing properly, and I can end up getting caught up in that web. And so for those that are like, oh, I had to get back to a job because I wasn't paying this or paying that, there's a couple of ways to do things. or like being able to finance stuff. Like when I jumped into entrepreneurship, like self-employed life, I didn't know how hard it was going to be to get an apartment, having something financed. Like these are the things that they don't tell you. Even if you're pursuing social services or some sort of like government assistance, no one tells you how hard this stuff is or how. I remember when we tried to get an apartment at City Arts, and it's like, okay, this is a artist building. Like they should be able to accommodate artists and a true artist lifestyle, but it wasn't built for full-time artists. And so, um, you know, they had to kind of create a policy, saying that you had, instead of having pay stubs, because they're like, we don't have pay stubs, we don't work a job, we're artists. They said, you can verify your income through a lawyer or an accountant. So, like, if you are super organized, we are all at different levels, and that's okay, you know. Um, so, the ideal, of course, is to have some sort of accountant or have some sort of lawyer to make sure that your finances are straight and you're keeping them organized and all that type of stuff. If you do not have that, and there's also resources, anybody want to talk about it in Maryland, there's like Maryland Lawyers for the Arts that kind of help out. There's a couple of different accounting organizations specifically for creatives that do this type of stuff. But of course, lawyers mostly read and write contracts, and accountants really just organize your information. And so one way to make things help, to help things, is to use some sort of software, even if it's just making sure that any money comes in goes directly into your bank account, and making sure that bank account is a business account. You should get your tax ID number. You don't have to be an LLC. It is free to get your sole proprietorship. Pay $25 to $75 to trademark the name, and then go to the bank and get a bank account. This will help clear up a lot of stuff, especially for those who are dealing with, want some sort of social service or like state insurance or whatever, and worried about what their personal income looks like. You should have any income go through this business versus going to you. If you want to set it up and make it easier for you to buy a car or get an apartment or something like that, then you can set it up as like an LLC, B Corp or something like that, and be able to write yourself checks and and get pay stubs, be able to pay yourself. But we'll kind of get into that later. But organizing your funds, any cash that goes through, don't as soon as the cash come in your hand, it goes right back out. I know I have that issue. If I'm getting paid in cash, I did an event and I vended, that cash ends up being just my cash for the day. I don't put it in the bank right away unless, if it's under a certain amount. And that's what kind of messes things up. Because in my mind, I'm like, okay, this is only $50. But if I work a $10 hour job or something like that, my day's work for the day, that's $50, So just think about if I was working a job, would you spend $50 frivolously or randomly on something if out of your paycheck when you have to cover these other bills? You wouldn't do that. So you keep it in this space. Or if it's PayPal, it's best to have everything go through one system, be it PayPal or even Cash App or Square. And I noticed that a lot of people try to get around the different things. Even like, I also got in the habit with PayPal and doing the friends and family thing. But that takes you out of certain opportunities, especially if you later down the line wanted to get some type of business financing. Because if you have a bank account or if you have it being processed through PayPal or Square as a business, then you can qualify, especially a year or two, the account is active, they can see the income, you can qualify for like a business loan. So something that I was able to get twice through our juice company was Square was offering business loans, and then they took a higher percentage out of all the sales after that. And PayPal is offering that as well. PayPal, you have to make a certain amount of money And so I didn't qualify for the PayPal loan because I wasn't using PayPal as much, or I wasn't having people pay via the PayPal app. Once I noticed that if they're paying you over a certain amount, can't remember if it's $100 or $500, then they take a huge chunk out of it. So I'm like, no, I'll send you the invoice via here, and then I want you to pay me via check so I can get all my money. But now that's taken away from being able to get this loan situation. So like these are just random things that have popped up and have become available for people like ourselves that we end up losing out on because of not wanting to like organize our finances in that way. Another benefit of doing this again is being able to get an apartment or a car or whatever. We've been able to use our bank statements to finance a car or get an apartment. That's how we've been able to use proof of income if not being able to get a pay stub. Of course, there's people, again, that fake pay stubs, all of that. So you have in this place, and you could decide, this is how much I'm paying myself a week or bi-weekly, based on my goals and based on what I put there. This is how much I'm going to pay out to my personal expenses. So then I know how much labor I need to put out, how much I need to save, whatever the case may be. Another thing with creative entrepreneurs and money is a lot of it is feast or famine. Again, most of us are check to check when it comes to, especially those who are strictly doing contract stuff, and those, and not those who have some sort of like easily ready product or service. And when that's the case, like I notice for myself sometimes, like if I get some sort of check or I just got a grant or something like that, especially because grant life, you have to spend all of the money, right? And so you kind of get in the habit of, okay, I got to make sure I get the equipment I need, pay everybody I need, all of that. That's, and so I find myself, if I get another chunk of money that's unrestricted because it's some sort of contract or it was like a licensing thing or something like that, that I have that same mentality, like gotta spend this right away, and get the materials that's needed. And, when you could, again, set that aside for a rainy day when it's more of a drought time, or pay your bills up so that you don't have to worry about it and you can relax and you can use that everyday money to enjoy it because your rent is already paid or your car payment is already paid, this, that, and the third. Also with that, of course, is minimizing your expenses. You don't want to finance too much stuff when you are a micro entrepreneur, especially if you're doing this full time. You want to minimize your expenses as much as possible. You want to live simply. You don't want to put too much money into things that aren't making money. But again, one issue that I've seen with that, and again, I found myself doing, you still have to nurture yourself and you still need to invest in yourself. So it's okay to treat yourself. You don't have to feel guilty about treating yourself if, because that money isn't going to your business or going to your bills. Because if you're not well, then your business isn't going to do well. And so, budget that in. And feel okay about it, but it's still important. Where can you cut the fat? What is necessary and what is not? And you notice most people, almost sometimes I laugh at the business owners I know in Baltimore, because I'll see them out and I'm like, nobody would know that they're worth however so much money, or nobody would know that they own a business because they're not trying to flash. They're not trying to do anything. They're trying to get their business done. They're trying to make sure it keeps running, and that's kind of where the focus has to be. It cannot be on trying to impress, trying to make it look like you're doing more than what you're doing. It's a waste of time. It's a waste of time because the people that follow fluff and follow hype are not the people that's going to continue to support. They're not the ones that actually pay money for anything. They're the ones that jump from hype to hype and pay, and their currency is attention. Their currency is a sense of fame, and that's it. So there's no need to chase the hype. It is no need to chase that. It's important to have actual sustainable. How am I generating income? How am I organizing this income to benefit me? How am I feeding myself? And that's across the board, right? So on that note, I think I'm going to stop. Most of us have Gmail accounts. Google Drive is your friend. There's Excel, where you can always plug in numbers if you need to try to keep organized, try to create some sort of budget. Um, and that's the beauty of this lifestyle. The beauty of this lifestyle is you can set a goal and you can create, if I do consulting. If I'm like, okay, I have to get this certain amount of money so I can pay this bill, so I can do this trip or whatever, then I say, I need to book at least this many consulting clients or something like that, or at least this many, or figure out. I was talking to this guy, and he was just like, I have to make $5,500 a month from this art stuff, whether it's from teaching or doing shows or selling products or selling books. That's how much money I have to make from it. And so what that looks like specifically doesn't necessarily matter, but I know I got to hustle it out, and I know I have to get it done. And that's what it comes down to, So the lifestyle is definitely not for everybody. So there's no guilt or shame in going back to a job or work. But I always feel uncomfortable if it's based off of kind of like a false truth. If you're going back because of the money, that doesn't really make any sense. That means that there's some things that you have to work on. Now, if you're going back, you say, this is a little bit too much for me. I'm going back for the ease, or for, I only want to play a piece of the puzzle. I don't want to be the whole puzzle. I want to be able to, when I come home, work is over. And we'll talk about maybe in another video setting those boundaries, which is really difficult for an entrepreneur to say, you know what, when I go to bed, it's bed. My room literally only has a bed in it, and of course, like clothes scattered. And I've tried to be mindful of that, but now I find myself having the computer next to the bed, and ending up doing work in bed, which I have been mindful. It's one of the boundaries that I've set, not to do that over the past couple of years. But that's a whole nother topic. Right now, again, basic organization for hustlers. Make sure you have a bank account. Have it be a business account. We'll look at doing invoices and W-9s, because I noticed that is a skill that a lot of us don't have, which we should. Basic contracts, basic agreements, these type of things to make sure your stuff is tight and to make sure that you are ready when those bigger opportunities come. You want to have it right. Okay, so thank you. I will share with everybody when the workbook becomes available, or if you are interested in checking it out, then of course you can hit me up and I can send it to you, email it to you, whatever the case may be. If I am sending you this for free, then I expect you to give some sort of feedback and certainly share. Share. All right. Have a blessed one.